It's a Quincy thing. That's how the loose meat sandwiches at the Made Right restaurant in Quincy are often described. Little did Henry B. Geise know back in 1928 how popular his restaurant would remain over 90 years later. When former Quincyans return to the Gem City, the trip is often incomplete until they're sitting in their favorite booth. Jack Freiberg of Case and Huff and Schluter can attest to the impact Made Right has made on the lives of Quincyans.
Made Right is one of those Quincy iconic institutions that multiple generations of people have eaten there. My family has been here for 6 generations, and the Geise family has been here, I'm sure, almost as long. There is no more iconic restaurant in Quincy than the Made Right. And when people that grew up here go across the country and come back to see family or what have you, they invariably want to go to the Made Right to eat. And this has been true for multiple generations. I mean, one of the stories that I was just told today about the Made Right was this guy's grandparents went on their first date at the Made Right. And every year on their anniversary meal was at the Made Right. That's how much of an institution the Made Right is in Quincy.
While the Quincy Made Right is a local landmark, the franchise began elsewhere. The Made Right sandwich dates back to 1926 when Fred Engel, a butcher in Muscatine, Iowa, combined a special cut and grind of meat with a selected set of spices and created the Made Right sandwich. As the legend goes, Engel asked a delivery man to taste his newest invention. After a few bites, the delivery man said, "You know, Fred, this sandwich is made right." It's believed that Engel changed the spelling to Made Right to represent the wholesomeness and pureness of the sandwich. A maiden dressed in the garb of the early 1920s served as the Made Right logo, and one adorned the top of every Made Right restaurant that was established in the early years. The Made Right business was one of the first food franchise businesses established in the United States. The Quincy Made Right at 507 North 12th Street opened for business in May of 1928. Henry B. Geise, the grandfather of the present owners of Made Right Sandwich Shop, acquired the exclusive Made Right franchise for Adams County, Illinois, from Fred Engel. Henry B. Geise was born in Quincy on July 7, 1874. He was formerly a cabinet maker and had operated the Golden Oak Saloon at 427 Hampshire Street. Prior to the opening of Made Right in 1928, Mr. Geise had operated a restaurant called The Barbecue. With the purchase of the Made Right franchise, the barbecue restaurant was converted and renamed the Made Right Sandwich Shop. The original Made Right consisted of 3 tables with 4 chairs each. Since then, 5 additions have been added to the building, and today it will seat approximately 140 people. Grandson Henry B. Geise, co-owner of Made Right, remembers that his grandfather lived close to the restaurant.
He lived in a home right at 12th and Spring, and I remember he went to the Made Right every day. I can remember watching him walk across the parking lot from where he lived to the Made Right. He was a big man. I think he enjoyed his glass of beer every day, and he worked at the Made Right after he started it. He worked there. He did all the bookkeeping and cooked the meat and did all the things that needed to be done.
In the beginning, Made Right used to stay open until 1 a.m. His grandfather would stay open later to serve any customer wanting a sandwich after hours.
And the story was that at 1 o'clock, or right at 1 o'clock, Grandpa would go out on the sidewalk in front of the Made Right, and he'd look to the north and he'd look to the south, and if there was anybody walking that he could see that was headed towards the Made Right, he would not lock the doors until that person got there, because they might be a customer that wanted to come in.
Henry B. Geise, with the help of his sons Bernard H. Bud Geise and Eugene V. Gene Geise and their wives, operated the Quincy business until Henry B. Geise died September 14, 1941, at which time his 2 sons, Bud and Gene, took over the business. Bud and Gene operated the business as partners from 1941 until 1976, when Henry Geise, grandson of the founder, purchased Gene Geise's interest in the business. Henry B. Geise, the grandson, and his father, Bud Geise, were co-owners of the Maid-Rite until the death of Bud Geise in March 1985. After the death of Bud Geise, the owners of the business were Henry B. Geise and his mother, Violet M. Geise. Violet M. Geise died May 4, 2002, and the Maid-Rite is now owned by Henry B. Geise and his sister, Deborah Steeples, who are third-generation owners of the business. Deborah Steeples and her husband, Robert Steeples, have been general managers of the Maid-Rite on 12th Street and have been responsible for the day-to-day operation of the Maid-Rite for more than 15 years. Over the years, Maid-Rite's menu has continued to expand to include numerous side orders such as homemade soups, salads, homemade salad dressings, and homemade desserts. In April 2008, Alton Brown, a host of the Food Network, made a surprise visit to Quincy Maid-Rite. As a result of this visit, the Maid-Rite was featured in one of the episodes of the Food Network series, Feasting on Asphalt. Grandson Henry B. Geise had stopped by the restaurant for a quick lunch that day, and the Food Network star tried to learn the secret recipe.
He came over and talked to me. He said, "Can I talk to you for a few minutes?" I said, "Sure." He said, he wanted to know the history of it. And then he said, "Well, what's in that Maid-Rite?" And I said, "Pure beef." And he said, "No, I mean, what kind of seasonings or sauces or things?" I said, "Just pure beef." He said, "Well, don't you use a special seasoning or anything?" I said, "It's just pure beef." He said, he looked at me and he said, "You're not going to tell me, are you?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to tell you."
Perhaps 8 decades ago, Henry B. Geise hoped to have a successful business and a restaurant neighbors, friends, and family would enjoy. He certainly achieved that.